Again. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Happy midweek. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Next Gen Live. I'm Rory Sauter. Joining me is Matthew J. We have Brian Perez. We have Greg Merck. We have Bill Muckler. Gentlemen, fellas. Been a big week in the media, a lot to address, a lot to establish, headline after headline. We just had the debates tonight. Greg Merck, I'm going to go to you first.
Well, interesting debate. There aren't many things that were said tonight that I would disagree with. Some things with Christie. I profoundly disagree with him with his position on, what he calls parental rights and the transgender. I mean, parents don't have the right to, whore their children out and prostitute them and make dirty films with them. This is things. This goes way beyond what we would call parental rights. The idea that we would mutilate these kids, that we would subject them to these life-changing operations, many of them become suicidal, is absolutely outrageous. And it shows that he fundamentally does not even understand what the whole LGBTQ plus whatever community is about. As I've said many times, they're not about peaceful coexistence or acceptance or equality. They are about fundamental change, and they're destroying institutions and really destroying children to get their way. But other than that, I do find Ramaswamy, as always, he's just an offensive guy. He's difficult to like, but he is incredibly spot on some of these issues, especially in particularly his climate change. Because I have said for years, again, blank is not about blank. The climate change agenda is not about saving the planet. It is about fundamental change, control, wealth redistribution. He gets it. He's the only one that has the guts to articulate that. And the rest of them, maybe they believe it, but they've definitely been silent on it, not to the extent of Ramaswamy. So I like what he says. Unfortunately, he's just a hard to like individual.
I hear you. And what else? What else is going on? What else are you directing your focus towards?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at there's a Supreme Court thing that's going on right now. If many people are watching it, it's Moore versus basically the United States. What this guy had, he had a minor holding, like a 10% holding in a foreign company. He was not receiving any distributions, but a law that was actually passed under the Trump administration repatriated wealth. He was forced to pay $15,000. He's suing to get 14 and some change back. But the discussion is unrealized capital gains. Is that income? And this whole, you really get into the weeds when you start talking about direct taxes and indirect taxes, how direct taxes have to be apportioned in all of that. But this can have a profound impact on going forward with people like Elizabeth Warren, who want to tax people's wealth. They want to say, so if you have a home that appreciates, $1 million home, that you have to pay tax on that before you sell it. If you've got a portfolio that appreciates in value, you have to pay taxes on that appreciation before you ever even realize it. They want to redefine what income is, and that's really what the argument is. What is income? Does income actually have to be realized to be considered income? It's an extremely important topic. You're going to have to really watch it. And I don't know if they've they're making the judgment on the case yet, but it seems like something, even Comey Barrett, more of the justices than are kind of supporting this idea that income does not have to be realized. Then Gorsuch and Alito seem to be the two standouts that are really opposing this idea that you have to realize income, or you don't have to realize income to tax it. It's a dangerous movement in this country for the radical left. And again, it's all about massive redistribution of wealth, and that's one way to do it.
Yeah, Brian, there's some background noise coming from your screen.
Really?
Yeah, like some noise, like TV noise. It sounds like.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Matthew J, go ahead.
Good evening, Rory, and the rest of the panel. Great to be here tonight. I did watch the GOP debate tonight. It's a little difficult to watch these debates. That panel, the panels once again did not mention anything about the elephant in the room, that the leading candidate, President Trump. What did the rest of the people in the debate thought about?
Hold on. Greg, do you have the TV on?
No.
Bill, do you?
No, I don't. I'm hearing background noise too, and it sounds like a thumping or something. And then, yeah, but I have nothing on.
I don't hear it anymore. Matthew, go ahead.
Okay, to get back to it, no one on the panel was asking about the elephant in the room with President Trump under these prosecutions, these farce trials, and how it affects American politics in general. That it's highly unusual. Nobody discussed. I know Trump wasn't there present tonight on stage, but I think they should have at least addressed it. Now, Chris Christie. Overboard on the TDS. I mean, Jesus, he wouldn't give it a break.
He's awful.
The odd thing about it, and they kind of mentioned a little bit tonight, is that Chris Christie was on the debate prep team in 2016 for President Trump. So one wonders where you get these massive fallouts with President Trump. I mean, same thing, with Ann Coulter, where they're really huge. They love Trump for years on end, and then like within weeks, he's the worst guy ever. So it's just kind of a strange thing. But Vivek actually said a few pretty cool things tonight, particularly the last thing he said, Rory, about the climate change cabal. I think you and I were talking about this the other night. That this is, if you thought that the scamdemic was bad, wait till you see when they start enacting the climate change, the whole climate cabal agenda, which they're discussing in Dubai now. This is a real sinister agenda. You've got people like Al Gore that have made tens of millions off this scam. And I think Vivek was great to finish the debate by bringing up this climate hoax thing. And also he touched on some other topics that are interest. I think J6 and some other things that should be illuminated that the public want to know about. But as you see, the moderators, they didn't want to go anywhere near anything that Vivek was bringing up that they deemed controversial. But the American people, they want to know more about these situations because it just, 2020 election, it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever. There's anomalies everywhere. And I don't know if that's all been fixed. I think that election malfeasance apparatus may still be well embedded. So this is something that we really have to closely look at in 2024.
And you just mentioned January 6th. Funny you mention it. Did you see yesterday? And I've had this guy on my show. I had him on my show like a year and a half ago. I interviewed him for over an hour. Siaka, the FBI arrested him, and he's facing all these charges. He's a black actor from Hollywood, conservative actor. I don't know if you saw that story. It was all over the conservative media, and even Elon came out and said, "So wrong."
Right. I mean, obviously, Rory, the FBI, the DOJ.
This was just random. They came out and arrested him like 2 days ago, and this is 3 years after this whole thing happened, and he really didn't have anything to do with it. I think he was there in the crowd, but that means nothing. There were a lot of people there in the crowd. That means nothing.
Well, it's the same with Owen Schroyer, the guy from InfoWars. He's being released this Friday. He was in solitary for most of the 4 months. He was just there. He was just there, as you were saying, at the J6 incident. But apparently, the feds are still arresting, on average, one person a day that even attended the J6 event. You would think they'd be much more focused on our open border and the potential for terrorists coming through there. But they're not. They're focused on that J6 incident and conservative Catholics or parents that oppose CRT. I mean, you talk about an agency that is compromised, a government that is compromised. This is a big, big problem here. And that's why I'm very concerned about the November 2024 election happening. Particularly if President Trump is got these huge leads in the polls, not just over his rivals, but Joe Biden as well. What do you think this demented, sinister government we have in place right now is going to do about that?
That's why they're trying to indict him and keep him off.
Yeah, they're going to, they're trying to get him off in certain states, but Trump's legal team is winning that in every state. They're trying to take him off the ballot. But when you read articles in the Atlantic, really demonizing Trump, saying he's going to be a dictator, he's going to go after all his enemies. It's such shit. What do you think they're doing now to Trump?
Exactly.
This is unheard of in American history. So they're kind of setting Trump up for a lot of deranged individuals to do something bad to them. And that is what they're setting up. And I'm talking about the legacy media. The MSNBCs of the world are talking about him like, he's Satan or something. So this is dangerous politics, but this is how the left orchestrates things against people when they want to take them out.
And Matthew, what'd you think about Nikki Haley being okay with child reassignment surgery? She has no problem with it. She's like, we shouldn't intervene. We shouldn't butt into stuff like that. Fuck you, Nikki Haley.
Amen.
You are a disgrace to the Republican Party.
Yes, she is.
A disgrace. A liberal. She's really a fucking Democrat when you come down to it. Ron DeSantis came out strong, against that. He doesn't want to see minors with this gender reassignment surgery. It seems like a no-brainer, but the people on the stage tonight were having big issues with it.
Yeah, it's child abuse.
Yeah, right. Brian, your thoughts?
Well, I thought Vivek did a great job. He's being treated like President Trump was in the 2015 through 2016 debates, being like the most hated one, but he's the most reasonable one on the stage. Obviously, President Trump's going to be the nominee. He's the greatest president of all time, but Vivek's made great points. I love the fact that he goes after him and doesn't give a crap, even though Chris Christie, you shouldn't talk to Nikki Haley like that. You know what? He told him to go have a meal. I would have said, hey, fat boy, go eat some donuts, get off the stage and get out of here, because he's a neocon. So is Nikki Haley. She's awful. I can't. I'm not a fan of her at all. I don't even think she should ever be in government again, personally, myself. DeSantis came in second to me. He made good points. But, yeah, these guys touched on it. The transgender movement and the fake weather climate change scam is right on point with Vivek, what he stated. It's a religious cult. It's to destroy our American manufacturing, fossil fuels, everything in society that we have. It's just these communists that are pretending to be Republicans. I can't stand them. They need to get out of the Republican Party. I think Vivek is definitely going to be in President Trump's cabinet, and I like him. I think he's doing it. I mean, I wouldn't support him or vote for him, but I just think he's doing a great job handling himself, especially being he's like 36, 37 years old, taking on people who've been in government for 20 plus years and been living off the American people and sending troops overseas. Nikki is such a liar, but yet she tells everybody else that they're liars. It's a typical playbook that is going on with President Trump. They're telling he's going to be a dictator. He didn't do it in 4 years. Why would he do it in the next term? All he did was actually fight for the American people every day. They talk about how President Trump did bring up the deficit to 8 trillion or something, or 7 trillion. I mean, he did do that for the military. I mean, I'm not a fan of raising our debt. We need to definitely balance budget, get it down. We need actually somebody in there. I don't care, Republican, Democrat, but obviously it'd be Republicans that do it, to get rid of departments, all the departments. Actually, Governor DeSantis talked about that later on towards the end with the World Economic Forum and all them and the CDC. We got to hold our government accountable for the China virus and the China virus jabs and the bioweapon that they forced people to do. There's been no accountability, and to keep electing these same people in office, it's never going to change. We have to hold people accountable. And I definitely want President Trump to go after these people. They've been going after him. They've been going after parents who've been arrested at school boards for standing up for their children. And anybody that allows a parent to have their kid's penis cut off, they should be in prison forever, and they should be tortured in a slow death, because that's evil and demonic, and you're disgusting human beings if you think you should be able to do that to your own child. And that is the job of a man or anybody else that can stand up for that child, whether it's their kid or not, to make sure that child is safe.
Amen. Amen. Bill Muckler.
Hey, I got a different take on this. I watched 2 debates this week, and I think the one I watched last night, Trump was the winner. because he had his debate on Hannity for an hour, and we got to hear everything that Trump was, the questions that would be asked. And then tonight we got the questions for the other four people. And the thing of it is, the Democrats, the way I see it right now, their three-legged stool to win the 2024 election is identity politics, reproductive rights, and climate change. None of those topics were brought up tonight. Nobody talked about them until Vivek brought it up in his closing remarks, and he brought up being the hoax that it is. And I thought he did really well on that in describing it as a hoax. I don't know what you guys watched. I spent like more than a half an hour trying to figure out how the hell to watch this darn thing.
Me too.
And I'm wondering why, it was so difficult. Now, I'm 88. Everybody I know that's about 65 to 70 on up, they don't have the skills that I have as far as the technology is concerned. I don't know how any of them were able to figure out how to watch this thing. I went to this News Nation, and I couldn't work that out on streaming. Then it said something about Hulu, so I went to my Hulu channel. It was not on there. Then I thought, well, there's something about YouTube. So I went on my TV. I got YouTube on my TV because I like to watch my shows on there occasionally. And I was able to get it. And there was a guy on there on the right-hand screen by the name of David Pakman. Did any of you see? Did you guys see that feed? Or he was kind of like the wise ass that makes the remarks as they go along.
I know who he is. He's been around for a long time. Okay. He's a big liberal. And
I never heard of him.
He's a big pompous ass and just a smug, condescending, narcissist.
Yeah, he played the part of a smartass really well. But anyway, he kept praising Christie, and I knew right away, okay, I can see where this guy's coming from. Pardon me. If he's praising Christie, then that's the guy we don't want. I pass.
Okay.
God bless you, brother.
Yeah, he's got a cough there, Roy.
Yeah, Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. I wanted to get on something that was breaking. As I went on my show.
We like breaking.
Yes, we do.
The whole University of Nevada at Las Vegas mass shooting, and they just finally came out with the shooter.
The shooter died. I know the shooter perished. He is gone. A
67-year-old leftist professor that was denied a job at the university went on a shooting spree. That's why they dragged his feet for 7 hours.
Wow, that's going to turn into a MAGA cultist.
The media won't stay on this one long. Was it a white male?
I believe he was white.
Yeah.
You know what was interesting, Rory? When I got word of it, it was about a
white Democrat male. So
exactly.
Yes. So they're going to wash it out. But I was listening to Las Vegas Metro Police on a scanner live, listening to them go from floor to floor. And when they got to the fourth floor, they said, okay, we have 3 code 419s. And I'm looking through Googling and everything. And that was people that were dead. A 419 code for police are people that are dead. And then the next thing came on that said, okay, we have a report of a light-skinned male with a handgun with a long clip on it. He was somewhere in some dormitory or whatever. I was like, holy shit, I'm not hearing any of this on the news. Now, subsequently, they were probably, they didn't probably pan out. And also there was another report over the radio that there was an officer down, which also was false. But it was interesting listening to the live police operations and the magnitude of the job, Roy. They had to go floor to floor, door to door. And I kept hearing over the scanner, the cops didn't have the access codes to get into any of the buildings or rooms. And the kids obviously were freaking out. So it was interesting to listen to how they go about when they're in a mass shooting type operation. It's a tragic thing. These are young people. This guy's a fucking scumbag. 67 years old, shooting people up.
Yeah, and this story will disappear in 24 to 48 in 24 to 48 hours because this is not a white mega Trump supporter. This is a white Democrat, and it doesn't fit their narrative. It would go against what.
It's like the tranny who murdered the Christians.
Yeah.
Christian
Exactly.
children.
Same type of thing. You're
That
absolutely
manifesto's
right.
been blocked still.
Yes. So yeah, this will be out of the news cycle. And Roy, once you go past 2 or 3 hours, you know something's up. When they don't identify the shooter and they wait about 7 hours, you know something. They're figuring out how they're going to spin it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, another shooting. Here we go again.
And
Doesn't end.
the other big news, Roy, of course, was on the
It's
political
the
front.
new norm, isn't it? Sad though how it's become this trend, how it's become the usual. Like we're not even surprised anymore. We're like, yep, here we go.
Because it's a mental health issue. Even
Right.
Vivek talked about it tonight.
Right.
You know, when the China virus lockdowns happening, it caused that the biggest effect was going to be the mental health. People being locked in their homes, not being able to go anywhere. That's their own prison. That's their own cell. And to not have relationship. We're meant to have relationship with people, but if you're isolated, it starts to eat at your mind. And if you're already sick and warped and demonic, it's going to really take over the brain. Like Joe Biden, like that guy he's mentally incapacitated, but mental health is a huge issue with suicide and people going out wanting to kill anybody. And that's the heart issue as well. That's about not having God in your heart, because if you're a believer in Jesus, you're not going to want to go kill somebody. You're going to want to love on somebody and try to help them and guide them and just be there for them. But the demonic, evil, mental attack, the psychological warfare we're in, and the spiritual warfare is set up also so that they can it's kind of like the Dark Knight Rises, how they use the mental people to go after and kill people. It's allowing the criminals to do what they want. It's attack on our way of life. It's about trying to come after and take our guns away. You see Chuck Schumer already trying to do a ban with assault weapons, which assault weapons are already banned. You can't have an M16. They're trying to take away our guns so that way then they can implement their plan of the new world order. Because right now, as long as we have guns and we're able to protect ourselves, we are scary to them.
Yeah. Was it a gun-free zone too? Why did it take so long to get to the? I mean, most of the colleges down where I'm here, Temple, University of Pennsylvania, all the security is armed. They're actually regular police officers. It took the Metro Police to get there to take this guy out, not somebody on campus. And as I said, I wonder if it was a gun-free zone. I mean,
most campuses are, unfortunately, Matt.
Yeah, that just
and it even has a sign. Yeah, it says the sign, hey, gun-free zone, come kill all the kids. But yet, if you go into a Capitol or where a politician works, they have a lot of armed security. You got to go through like metal detectors. Why don't they do that at schools?
I think they're going to start thinking about it, because look at the last couple of shootings, including some of those tranny shootings. They're going into schools.
Yep. And then we need to hire disabled veterans or retired police officers, people who know how to handle weapons, that would be willing to go be volunteers or do it for low pay, and be there to protect the kids. Put in metal detectors, allow teachers who want to be armed or PE coaches or whoever to be armed and handle business, man. We need people who be willing to handle business instead of allowing they're always attacking the children, whether it's through the school system with Marxism and indoctrination and communism or the gun-free zones or abortion or whatever. And we got to do a better job at standing up and protecting the vulnerable and the weak, whether children, women, seniors, all that.
It's only the symptoms. We can try to protect the symptoms all for the rest of our lives, and it'll do nothing. We have a spiritual problem. We don't worship the God of the Bible. We worship the God of the bottle, the God of the pharmaceutical industry, the God of illicit drug usage, the God of self-centeredness. And kids are raising themselves in the streets. Fathers are missing in action. Mothers are more interested in being their daughter's best friend than being their mother. We have absolute social chaos, and this is the result. And the idea that we're going to hire enough guards to protect children it's just absolutely naive. It's just not possible because evil has manifested itself, and evil will find the weakest link and will always attack them. So until we really address the underlying problem, the foundational problem in this country, which is a spiritual decay, we're going to continue to see these things manifest. You know, it was the great Dutch historian who said it well in the 19th century, that when you have this kind of moral decay, when you have this spiritual impotence, when you have political corruption, you give rise to these crass manipulators and to people who stage great public spectacles of narcissism. This is what we have in our country today. And as long as we want to chase the symptoms and try to correct and fix the symptoms, we're going to continue to allow the virus to spread and wreak more havoc on society.
Right. And no, I agree, Greg. Very well said. And Brian, going back, I think you mentioned assault weapons. The Democrats' ban for assault weapons prohibits over 200 different firearms. Did anybody know that?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't keep track of how many.
Yeah, the new thing they want to put forth would ban over 200 firearms. That's
ridiculous.
Crazy.
Yeah.
How many freaking firearms are there? Thousands? I imagine thousands, right?
Well, they don't even know what an assault weapon is. So, I mean,
like I'm referring to, like they say over 200 different types of firearms, meaning different types of guns. Yeah. When I said how many guns are there, I meant, and I think I said it specifically, but types of guns. Greg, what would you say? Thousands?
Oh yeah, thousands. But you know what? Here you can sum it up into one type of weapon. Right. The scary ones. All right.
But just
so
like,
they're trying to ban
I'm talking about brand.
No, I know. But what that's because you get a group of lawyers together and they have to specify exactly what type of weapons they are. But suffice it to say that these are the scary weapons, the ones that look like the assault weapons, your AR style, your AK style, and any other kind with the handrails, with the collapsible stocks, any of the ones that look like military style. So you're all basically going to be allowed to have a bolt action or a shotgun and handguns. So, but again, that's not the problem. Getting rid of these is not the problem.
There's more guns than there are people.
Well, there are millions and millions and millions of these guns. And
millions, more.
The idea that they're going to...
They say, they've done surveys saying there's more guns out there than there are people.
Well, of course, but... how are you going to go door to door and try to route out these guns? You know what? I tell you what, why don't you go door to door, and instead of looking for the assault weapons, why don't you look for the illegals and round them up and get rid of them? Because I'll tell you what, you do that and you'll put a major dent in the crime. How about starting there rather than spending money thinking that you're going to confiscate millions of guns that I could hide in my drywall, I could bury in the backyard for 50 years, but somehow you can't round up a bunch of illegals that are here, living, breathing humans that have to go out and find jobs and work. It's just, again, because it's not about what makes sense. It's not about public safety. It's all about fundamental change and control. They want to control the people. This is at the same time that the government in Ukraine is handing out automatic rifles to its citizens and bullets. So, I mean, it's just the most asinine thing, knee-jerk reaction, not about public safety, but about government control.
Right. Real quick,
hey, Greg, you wouldn't have to go door to door to look for illegals. All you have to do is do room checks at the luxury hotels, and you'll find every one of them.
Yeah. Bill, how do we feel about Trump saying that he will deport every single person that is here illegally?
I love it.
Well, do you think he'll follow through?
DeSantis addressed that.
And can he do that? I mean, is there a way that he can be stopped?
Congress can stop him.
Like politicians stop him, because I feel like they'll stop him when he's already halfway through. I don't think they'll let him deport every single one. I think
as soon as he starts it, they'll find some federal judge someplace that'll put a restrictive order on it. And they'll kind of go from there. But can it be done? Yeah, it can be done.
You got to do it quickly, right?
I don't know if there's enough.
It's a simple way. It's a simple solution. And I'll tell you, kudos to DeSantis.
I'm sorry. I just don't think there's enough in America to enough Americans to say, yeah, let's just go ahead and do like Hillary said, round them up and ship them out. I just don't think that's going to happen. I would love to see it happen. I'd like to see us start out, with just Americans and then remove all the safety nets except the one important safety net, and that's a good job. Get everybody working. We only got 63% of the people in the labor working right now. The labor availability report shows 63%. Let's get it up to about 80%. That'd put another 15 million to work. We don't need people from other countries to come in and do the jobs. And I've done all the jobs Americans won't do. And if I can do them, anybody else can do them as well.
But you've heard that expression, the old adage, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. People don't want to work. I mean, we've got millions of jobs that are open. People don't want to work. Why? Because it's more profitable to not work, because we're a bunch of lazy indigents, and that's what we're raising. But it's a very simple solution to get rid of the illegals. And I'll tell you what, I like DeSantis, what he said, because he was saying what I wanted people. When they talk about deporting, Donald Trump ran on deporting, said he'd throw them all out. But yet he was going to give amnesty to over almost 2 million illegals. And the whole DACA thing, he was going to give them all citizenship. So he talked the good talk, but when he was president for 4 years, he did nothing by way of deportation.
But I think with that though, I think that was a play. I think
what is a play for what? What kind of play?
Well, I was just going to say,
he said he would deport them. He didn't deport them. And here's how you get rid of them.
He knew they weren't going to sign off on it. So
come on now. Look at you can't defend the indefensible. You have to call balls and strikes. Look, I can promote Donald Trump. I'll vote for Donald Trump. But I'm not blind.
I don't like the fact that he was trying to I just think he was going to show their cards, that he was throwing what they were saying in their face.
Okay, that's pure egregious speculation and conjecture. It's not rooted in any fact. He had ample opportunity. And you know what? Mitt Romney had the right choice. Mitt Romney said they'll self-deport when you cut off the supply of money and benefits. That is the key to getting rid of them. As long as you're giving them housing, as long as you're putting them up in 5-star hotels and giving them credit cards to buy their food, they will continue to come. You shut off the entitlements and you shut off the gravy, and they'll leave and stop coming to this country. And you know what? You can say what you want about Trump, but he didn't follow through with what he said. Get them all out. The kids, the parents, they all got. That's exactly what he said, and he didn't make good on it. And I don't know that he'll make good on the next time. I don't know. Okay, all I know is he promised it, and he didn't make good on his promise.
Well, he tried to get the wall done. Congress stopped him too. So I mean,
Congress stopped nothing. Didn't stop anything.
He didn't do it.
Congress stopped him, dude.
He didn't do anything.
The wall. They stopped him from building the wall. It's facts.
No, but he didn't do anything to deport.
The facts is he tried to build a wall. Congress stopped him, and that's that they shouldn't.
He didn't do anything to deport. I'm talking about the deportation.
Well,
and it was his plan to give amnesty to 2 million. That was his proposal. He was going to give amnesty to more people.
He knew they weren't going to. He knew they weren't going to sign it.
If we go back and look, though, he did run in 2016, very tough on immigration. But he got in there, he softened up and wasn't nearly as tough as he talked on the 2016 trail.
Yeah, thanks, Jared.
Once he got in there, it was a different ball game. Do I think his intentions were to go in there and get these people deported and taken out of our country? Sure, but there were various things that stopped that.
Maybe,
and I think he was under the impression that he could compromise with the other side and reason with these people. And that's just not the case.
Well, how do you mass deport 10 million people or more?
How do you confiscate 30 million?
How do you? What kind of?
Greg, Romney, I'm no fan of Romney, but I'm guessing he said that when he was running for president against.
Well,
Obama,
obviously, he was never the president, so of course he said it when he was running for president. He
okay.
never became the president.
I thought you were getting at that he said that when Trump was in the White House, and I found that hard to believe. So I was going to ask you and just double check, because I figured that's when he was running for president. He said that.
Yeah, and it's a good move. But listen, you can deport. There's many things you do. Like we don't have to go all from house to house. Very simple. And when I ran for the state house here, it was a very simple proposal for me. We were going to have e-verification. You had to verify citizenship, or we would hold employers accountable. That with fines and jail time. Look, you want to hire illegals, you go to jail. And that would dry it up immediately. And they should do that on a national level, a national e-verify. If you are not here legally or are authorized with a green card, you cannot work in this country. But we're doing the exact opposite. They want to now give all these people jobs. Well, that's just going to flood more of them into this country. I'm sorry. You have to stop giving them rights. You have to stop giving them entitlements and health care and education and money, or they're not going to stop coming. The world is coming to America because America is the land of opportunity with more money than the entire world. That's the way they see America. You can come here and live. These people are going from abject poverty to what would be the equivalent of upper middle class in their countries. Of course, they're going to get on boats and risk their lives to come here. And oh, by the way, it is a vacuum because thousands of wicked, evil enemies and terrorists are coming along right side by side with them. This is a national security issue. It's an economic security issue. And if they don't get serious about it, then America's best days will be done.
And Greg, think about the globalists that were in the Trump administration, like Jared Kushner. Like the Jared Kushners of the world were like the biggest advocates for all this amnesty, all this excessive amounts of immigration, all this cheap labor. And it's a huge problem. I mean, that's a big issue.
It's crazy.
He got a lot of his advice from Jared.
Yeah. Well, but you know what? I don't care. I don't care if he's surrounded by 20.
No, I know.
1,000 legions, a legion of demons.
At the end of the day, at the end of the day, he's responsible. He's president. Right. He's responsible for who he hires. It's his.
That's true.
It's his administration.
All I'm saying is, look, I'll vote for Trump, support him 100%.
Yeah, me too.
No question. But he ran on a lot of things and he didn't deliver. I call balls and strikes. He ran on the fake Fed, the artificially low interest rates, and when he's in office, he was calling on the Fed to make negative interest rates. So listen, you could say one thing, and when they get in office, to do another. And I don't know what a Ron DeSantis would do, but I know what he ran on in Florida and what he delivered in Florida. And
there's a lot of illegal immigrants here in Florida. Plus, they're voting in our elections. I had a state rep.
Okay, well, I'm telling you can't stop. Ron DeSantis cannot send, all his troops to the border and stop them from flowing in. That's just collateral damage from the federal government. Okay, Joe Biden is responsible.
You can put the state guard on our borders of the ports and our state line.
Yeah, well, people are not coming across the border into Florida like they did back in the day when the Cubans were coming.
What?
They're not coming to the beaches. That was like the 1980s. Okay, they're coming
to Florida. There's a lot of them here.
They're coming from across the southern border in Mexico.
That's where they always come from.
Yeah, obviously. So it's kind of hard. I mean, I suppose maybe we could set up,
so you're making
traffic stops on I-10 and I-95.
That doesn't make sense. So you're not calling balls and strikes for DeSantis, only Trump.
No, I'm calling 100% balls and strikes for DeSantis.
No, because the illegal immigrants are coming to Florida as well. They're here.
Well, he can't stop them from coming. Look, he can't stop them from coming. If we get invaded by China, if we get invaded by China, the governor can't stop us from getting invaded by China.
You're not making sense.
I'm making perfect sense. They're coming across the southern border.
But DeSantis is not.
It's the responsibility of the federal government. The illegal immigrants are the responsibility of the federal government. It's the responsibility of DeSantis, which he has done, is not giving them the entitlements. What he has done, look, you're conflating the power of the government versus the power of the president. I mean, I don't know if you know the differences. There are vast differences.
Our governors can keep the illegal immigrants from coming across our state lines by putting people on the state line.
Oh, really? And what governor's doing that?
No, none. I'm saying
none of them. And you know why? Because they don't have the resources.
You said DeSantis is not his fault. It is his fault.
Oh, so you think we should have a border on I-10 and I-95? Stop every car in there and search for illegals.
Hell yeah! If they're bringing illegal immigrants,
is that what you think could happen?
My county's #1 in opioid overdoses. We're number 2.
Okay, we're getting off on a tangent here.
Hell yeah.
Ron DeSantis has cut off the gravy train for illegals here, and you know what? He needs
down for that too.
He needs the House, the State House, and the Senate to draft legislation to hold employers accountable. And they've been calling for that, but it's
Greg,
just not left out of committees.
Hey,
So
Greg,
he's doing everything he can.
Greg, let
He's
me ask you a
delivered
question.
on all his
Everything
promises.
he can.
Greg, is Florida the only one with E-Verify?
We don't have it.
I don't
We
know.
don't even have it. Florida doesn't have E-Verify.
Did they ever try? Did any state ever?
They were,
enact
yes, they
that?
absolutely tried. They absolutely had tried to push it. Look, a lot of it it's not coming out of the House and coming out of committee and not coming on the state. Look, the guy has delivered on everything he's promised. There's nobody doubts that.
He has not.
Yeah, I mean, you're just making stuff up. Every
No,
state
I
is
live here,
getting.
bro.
What's he doing with the
go to
illegals? I'll tell you
Tallahassee
what.
all the
Look what
time.
he did
I
with the
live in
illegals.
Florida.
Okay, look what he did with them. He shipped them to Martha's Vineyard and to New
he
York.
hasn't
So
shipped
yeah,
all of
he's
them.
doing his
50
job.
of them. That's
He's shipping
awesome.
them out.
All right.
50 of them.
Bill,
50 of
you
them.
have any
He's done a
thoughts
lot
about
more
this?
than 50.
Bill,
He's done a
Bill,
lot
you
more
live
than
in
50.
Florida.
Yeah.
Bill,
Can I get in?
Yeah, you live in Florida, Bill. Go ahead.
For just a minute? I'm a Florida resident.
Yeah.
E-Verify ain't going to work because most of them get paid under the table anyway.
Yeah, but
Pardon me.
that's you think
And to
that's
think
another.
that we can block off every road coming into Florida, you have not been to Florida because there's thousands of roads.
That's it's
They
just
can
not
come
possible.
in.
I live in
any place
Florida,
they
man.
want.
What are you talking about? I haven't been to Florida.
But it's not possible to do that. I mean,
There's too many people from Florida on the
can't
panel,
block
Rory.
off every road that's coming in from from 10, coming in from the north, coming in through places like
It's
Marietta or
400-mile
whatever.
border
You
on the
can't
north.
do that. You
Amtrak?
can't block off everything that's coming into
Hey.
Jacksonville area because there's thousands of roads coming into Florida. You can't do
Either
that.
I-10 or
Don't even
75.
talk about it.
no, it's I-10 is 75. There's Route 3. There's Route 31. Look, I can go on and on and on. We got a
Okay.
400-mile border that comes from Alabama to Georgia,
Well,
all the way
exactly.
across.
Shut it down.
Exactly.
Yeah, shut it down. Yeah, that'll
Yeah,
work. That's how it'll work.
Hey,
that
Rory.
would take about 10,000 people.
Rory, I got some more
Why don't
news.
we do like East Germany? Just build a wall across the entire the whole border of the north and the
Okay.
states. That's not serious talk.
Hey,
It's not serious talk.
what about Kevin McCarthy?
I know, that's
leaving at
awesome.
the end of the month.
Yeah, what do we think about that? Do you think there's a bunch of corruption behind that? It's
Yes.
so
Well, he
sudden.
was- well,
it's so
he-
random that he's resigning.
He
Yes, I
gave the
love it.
store away to the Biden regime back in September with, spend as much as you want till January 2025. And you got to remember, it took 15 votes to make Kevin McCarthy speaker. And what
Right.
did he do? He pissed all over the GOP. He's a swamp guy. So
Yeah.
it's about time. Now, unfortunately, we're only going to have a 1-seat majority, but this fucking guy wasn't doing us any good. Kevin McCarthy is a swamp creature.
Well, he seems like the type that would be there forever. He seems like the type that would be a career-long politician. We have to question and wonder why the sudden resignation. He didn't, there were no indications, there were no signs that this guy was going to be taking off. He seemed like a guy that was there for the long run.
Yeah, he was. Well, Rory, why did they have to get? I know Santos was all fucked up, and why did they?
You're making a movie
expedite
like
him?
George. George is getting his own movie. Did you see that?
Yes.
I heard Rory Sauter's going to do the follow-up interview.
I would love that, man. I'll help with promotions. I would be honored. I would be honored.
Listen, Rory, why was the GOP so eager on getting one of their own out? And now McCarthy's gone, but it is what it is. And now we've got a 1-seat advantage now in the House. They should have dragged their feet. How about the New Jersey senator that's under indictment now with all those
Bob Menendez. Bob
Are they
Menendez.
going to tell him to
Senator.
roll?
Yep.
No, he'll walk. He'll be fine. It eventually, it'll all disappear, and he'll still be senator. If he was going to resign, if he was going to take off, it would have already happened. This guy thinks he's above everyone else. He thinks the law doesn't apply to him, and
Yep.
it's sick.
I think McCarthy's got something better, more profitable lined up.
Really,
I
like
think that's why he wants
maybe
to
a
get out.
venture capitalist.
I mean, I don't know, but he's out there in California. But he doesn't need this money. I'm sure he
Yeah.
sees this as an opportunity to look. He could serve out his term, but at what? Making 15,000 and being hamstringed from what he wants to invest in and other endeavors he wants to pursue. I'm sure he probably has an opportunity that is far greater than he's not going to run. He knew he was not going to seek re-election, And he's probably in his mind like, I'm losing opportunity and I'm losing money by sitting here in Congress and watching all this. So I'm not surprised at all that he's jumping ship. He's not going to be without a job and penniless. That I can guarantee you.
I would be curious to see his financials,
Yes.
representing California and just having all the resources and all the access he had.
You could see him.
I'm sure he's done well. I'm sure he's done well. I'm sure he's made a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
You can find him in
That's
the
corrupt,
SEC
for sure.
filings. It's public information. He has to
Well,
report all that.
Greg, I know that there's public information, but there's also offshore accounts. There's also loopholes. There's also secret bank accounts. We know that. You know how the game's played.
Yep.
Yeah,
He's definitely corrupt.
I don't. But McCarthy's successful and well off. I don't know that he needs to hide money. You could look at it. He's got money. So I mean, he's not Hunter Biden. He doesn't.
No,
he's not in the class of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden.
No.
Does he paint? Does he have artwork?
Maybe. I feel like a lot of them do. A lot of them are painters. Isn't W. Bush a painter too? Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's pretty good painter.
Yeah, he actually is pretty good. I've seen some of his work.
And he donates his stuff. He doesn't sell it.
Yeah.
Hunter gets top dollar.
I think Bill Clinton might be a painter. I know
I was going to say Bill's definitely a
great
painter.
saxophone player. Bill Clinton is a great saxophone player. And for some reason, I think he might be a painter too.
And he likes blue dresses too, doesn't he?
Right. Very true. Very true. Bill, you have any thoughts on anything?
No, I apologize, guys. I've been having a sinus infection all week, and I get coughing
Join the
spells and
club.
everything. So
what do we think about? No worries, Bill. No worries. I want to ask you this though first, Bill. What do we think about Tucker Carlson potentially being Trump's vice president? I think that would be phenomenal. I think that would be one of the greatest decisions Trump could ever make. The rumor is going around. It seems like it's more and more real and credible. It doesn't seem like it's just bogus and bullshit. Bill, what do you think? I
don't think it's a good idea because I don't think that people who have been in journalism or who have been TV entertainers are necessarily the right people to put in positions of government and governing and so forth. Now, for some people, it works out okay. Like Reagan, I guess it worked out pretty good for, but he was actually a governor for a couple of terms before that. But I just don't think that Tucker, number one, has the ability, has the background to do it or experience to do it. Number two is he's never going to do that because he's going to have to take a massive pay cut in order to do that. Why would he want to do that? He's making tons of money, just talking. Why should he be under scrutiny, and make a lot less money? Anyway, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it's just another one of those rumors that gets started that, don't never go anyplace.
But I have heard for years, and Matthew, I'd be curious to hear your response to this. I have heard for a while, for quite some time, that Tucker Carlson has talked about presidential endeavors, about maybe running someday. This would be his golden ticket. This would be his way in the door. Matthew, your thoughts?
It would, Rory, but I think, as has been mentioned, what he's doing now is lucrative, and I think it's something he really loves. And if you noticed, he's been in over 7 countries since he left Fox or was released by Fox back in April. I think he could be more effective for the conservative movement in general than he would be as a VP. And it's not to say he doesn't have the skill set. He probably does have the skill set. But I also think, and I know we've probably discussed this, I think Trump's ego is so huge, I don't think there's enough room for Tucker Carlson to enter the picture. Now, I have heard some things that Ben Carson is being thought about as a potential running mate for Trump. And now why Ben Carson would be good is because Ben Carson is kind of a guy that wants to stay out of the spotlight, whereas Trump wants to suck all the oxygen out of the room. So I think Trump needs somebody like that that's going to be a good, strong candidate that will be able to preach the America First agenda, but also knows his place in the campaign. And I think that's what Trump needs. He's not the kind of guy that can have a really strong personality next to him. And that's why I don't think it will happen. But you don't know. I mean, the world's so crazy. It could happen, but I doubt it.
It depends on how much butt kissing he gets. Trump is number one, primarily motivated by people who kiss his butt.
Yeah.
So as big a personality as I think Tucker Carlson is, bigger than Trump. He is a pretty good butt kisser, and I think that might offset his charisma and what he brings to the table. I like Ben Carson. I just don't like Ben Carson as potential president of the United States.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Sleep
for sure.
Ben, man, I want a little bit more enthusiasm, a little more excitement. You know what I mean?
What about a Kerry Lake?
If he sleeps to the table, is he gonna intimidate people like Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, because this is the reality. We live in a dangerous world, and there better be an intimidation factor. George W. Bush, he kind of had that swagger, that cowboy mentality. And you know what? People respect it. A lot of people didn't like him, but you know what? They respected Bush, and he put his money where his mouth is. Whether you agree with the wars or not, he wasn't a pussy. He didn't pussyfoot around. And Donald Trump had that. He had that swagger about him, and he intimidated our adversaries. I just don't see Ben Carson as an intimidating character, no more than I saw Mike Pence is very
Definitely not. And
Right.
I actually see him going Kerry Lake route or even possibly Kennedy. I definitely don't see Carson or I think he definitely
He'll never be Kerry Lake. She's a loser. She's lost her election. She lost her polls. He's if he picks a good-looking girl, he's going to pick.
It won't be Kerry Lake. There's no way. It'll be
Kristi
Kerry
Noem,
Lake.
maybe.
She's already running. Isn't she running for the Senate in Arizona?
Oh, could be.
I
Yeah,
don't
I'm just saying he might go females all. Maybe
Kristi Noem
Kerry
will be the
Lake.
female he takes.
Isn't
Yeah,
there a wild card here? I mean, when this started about a year or two ago, Ron DeSantis, and this is when Ron DeSantis and Trump were talking. You would see them in meetings. They'd be closely, bullshitting away. I know it seems strange in no possible way, but weirder things have happened in politics.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't be a horrible thing if he decided. I mean, I don't know how deep the rift is between DeSantis and Trump, but then again, it's just politics. A lot of this shit is forgotten the next day if it's politically expedient, if they think it's going to be a strong ticket for the party.
Well, Matt, you can't
I
have
wouldn't
two from the same
completely
state,
rule it
though. Matt, you can't have two from the same state, though.
Oh, you can't?
No.
Oh, shit.
And then I was actually with Tucker at a financial summit this weekend here in my hometown, and I got to ask him a question. People talked to him, and that question was proposed. He definitely didn't answer it, but I definitely don't think it would be Tucker. I think it'd be awesome I think it'd be a good ticket, but I definitely don't see Tucker doing it.
Right.
But you never know. It'd be interesting who gets that VP spot.
Trump still doesn't have residency in New York, does he? Does he still have a residency there or not? He's definitely a Florida resident, as you're saying.
Yeah,
but he doesn't have to. I don't think it has to do with residency so much as a habitation. I mean, Trump still has his New York address.
Yes,
so I don't think that stops him.
Right.
That would be a great ticket. But
and all he has to do is
leave being the
it.
governor though for the next 2 years to be a VP.
Yeah, I don't know that Trump can get past the whole being slighted because DeSantis ran. If DeSantis didn't run, I think it'd be a strong chance that would happen. But
right.
I don't. But you know what? Look, Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, and Ronald Reagan. I mean, they fought it out in the primaries in 1980, and then he became his VP.
Yes.
So I mean, stranger things have happened in history. But we're dealing about two very, very different people, Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. Very different personalities, very different character, very different. I don't know, sense of spirituality. Trump is very, very prideful. And I don't think he gets past the whole, de sanctimonious thing.
Do you think?
Well, don't forget too.
Do you think he's more likely to pick a female or a male?
I think flip a coin. I think that Trump. Look, Trump is about winning, and if he thinks he can get a black person on the vote on the ticket because that'll help him, he'll do that. If he thinks he can get a woman, he'll do that. I don't flip a coin. He's gonna. They're going to do all the polling and see who polls the best, and that's
we know it's not Mike Pence, Greg, right?
Yeah, definitely that.
Yeah, we can rule him out.
And it ain't going to be Christie. We can rule out Christie.
By the way, just to keep things straight, there is absolutely no law that says the president and vice president cannot be from the same state. I don't know where that
in the
came
Constitution.
From. That is absolutely
it's the 12th Amendment.
You can look it up there.
I read it in the Constitution.
It's the 12th Amendment.
12th Amendment. See, Greg's even saying it's the 12th Amendment.
No.
Yes.
They can
let's Google it.
Google
it
from the same state. There's no law against that. It's not.
Well,
it's not in
at
the
least
12th
one of them
Amendment.
must reside in another
Well,
state. But that's like an easy thing. It's
It's not.
It's very simple.
But that's not. But that's not true. There's no law. I don't know where you're making this up from.
We're not
That's
making
not
it
in
up. It's in the
12th Amendment.
Constitution. Read it.
I wrote the book on the Constitution, for Christ's sake. I know what's in it, and that's
Wow.
not in it.
It's going to take me too long to read it.
How many of you guys have studied the Constitution and actually wrote about it and everything? How many of you guys have really studied this thing and looked at it? There is no law that says that. Anyway, it's a moot point. It ain't ever going to happen. But we ought to go by the facts and not come out with stuff that we heard somebody else say, and then we say it, and then all of a sudden everybody's supposed to believe it. That's what the left does.
Bill, so I want to transition topics here, and I want to get your thoughts on this first, Bill. James Comer and Jim Jordan are threatening to hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress. Did you hear about this, Bill?
Yeah, I did.
Where do you think this is going to go? Do you think it has any legs? Do you think?
No, because they do that all the time, but it ain't going to happen, because if they do that, then they have to get Merrick Garland, or the head of the director of injustice, to go ahead and have him indicted, and that ain't going to happen. They ain't going to. Merrick Garland isn't going to indict the president's son based on the contempt order from the Republican Congress. It ain't ever going to happen. It's just all talk.
And it says James Biden today skipped his impeachment inquiry deposition.
Yeah, he can do that. He can do it all he
It's-
wants. And what are they going to do to him? They're not going to do anything to him,
Right.
because they have to go through the Department of Injustice to make it happen, and that ain't going to happen.
Matthew.
Yeah, I agree with Bill here that I mentioned this earlier. We are in such a predicament in this country where the Democrats have everything lock and barrel. I mean, look at even when President Trump from 2015, 2016, where you had the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, and other entities actively trying to thwart him during his presidency with the two phony impeachments. You remember the Mueller probe? And then at the end of that, Bob Mueller got in front of Congress, and he didn't even know what the hell he was talking about. Okay, we're in a bad state. The Democrats do not have to abide by these subpoenas and whatnot. They seem to avoid them, or like Hunter, just dance around them. I mean, his dad's in the White House. This is actually a criminal enterprise that is operating out of the White House. But they got their surrogates. Again, with the DOJ and the FBI, they're not really concerned about it. And Biden practically laughs at reporters when he's asked about his son Hunter. You know, the smartest guy in the world, according to Joe.
And complete with drug runners. They got their own cocaine delivery system too.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I'm serious. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Like, not only are they corrupt financially, but look at the drugs. You just can't imagine. Imagine George Bush's White House or Donald Trump's White House, where they found. I don't care where they are. I don't care if they found it in the bushes in the White House.
Yeah.
Outside the White House, it would be headline news, and there'd be a massive investigation.
Impeachment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let me say the 12th Amendment, back there really quick. It says electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for president, vice president, of whom at least one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves.
Thank you.
So in other words, the electors will vote for president and vice. One of the two guys
it just says they have to be voted separately. It doesn't say anything about the states that they reside in.
Yeah, it says the elector. It's the elector.
Because originally, the president and vice president were voted on by one vote. Then the 12th Amendment separated them to where each state, when they cast their electoral ballots, have to vote for president and vice president separately. But that says nothing about them.
It's in the first sentence.
It's in
the first sentence.
First sentence, man.
It says one of whom, at least, it could be both, but one. So either president or vice president shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And themselves is me. I'm an elector. I vote for president, vice president. One of these guys cannot be an inhabitant of my state.
Amen.
So So that's what the first thing the 12th Amendment says.
Okay.
But that's easily fixable. I mean, with
Yeah,
Trump,
I
it's not
agree.
like-
I agree. I was just making a point. That's all.
Hey, and guys, I want to transition here. I want to get your thoughts on this. Gavin Newsom, everybody's favorite governor.
Yeah.
Toy retailers must have gender-neutral sections or face fines. Listen to this.
Craziness.
Major California toy retailers without gender-neutral sections will be fined hundreds of dollars under Gavin Newsom's pro-LGBTQ bill. Assembly Bill number 1084, signed by Newsom in 2021, will be enacted on January 1st, 2024, and will require stores that sell children items or toys for children aged 12 years or younger to display a gender-neutral section or be fined up to $500. Stores will be required by law to have designated gender-neutral toys, regardless of whether they have been traditionally marketed for either girls or for boys, the bill states. The legislation will apply to retailers with 500 or more employees, and those who fail to comply will be liable for a civil penalty not to exceed $250 for a first violation or $500 for a subsequent violation. The bill was originally introduced from the California Assembly by then Assemblyman Evan Lowe, who is now a representative in the U.S. Congress. Wow.
So is Barbie they're gonna have a Barbie with a dick and a Ken doll with breasts?
Yeah.
All the problems in California, and his office is worrying about this shit. All the problems, homelessness, illegals running rampant, crime, everything, and they're worried about gender-neutral toy stores. What the fuck is that all about?
And they want California to be the rest of America. And for Gavin Newsom to say Biden is doing 100% good job, you got to be a loon. That is mindset worse than Biden.
That's quintessential demagoguery. You don't really believe it. You just politicize it and say, in spite of the facts and the evidence, that's pure demagoguery, and that's what they're about. But remember,
I agree, but people believe it though, Greg.
Right. That's right. They do. But these groups, these organizations, they're not about equality. They're about forced compliance and forced participation.
Yes,
and this is what people miss. This is the mistake that the average American doesn't see. They're not interested in they don't want to be accepted and equal. They not only want you to comply, but they want you to participate. They want to force you. That's why the transgender readings, the drag queen readings, and the imposition of gender neutral toys to face fines. All of this is demanding and that you participate in it. And until we recognize what it is, we're going to continue to lend credence, and we're going to get bogged down in the arguments about people's rights and this and them. Don't want to hurt people's feelings. Look, it's not about any of that. I always said, when truth is replaced by imagination, when reality is supplanted by fantasy, and that's all this is, no truth here, no reality, it's all fantasy and imagination, then chaos ensues. And chaos is it's the work of the Marxists, and it's the work of the devil. So they're
100%. And he even says he uses that word reimagine. He always even says it too. Yep. You're right on, Greg.
Yeah.
Bill, your thoughts on this?
Back in the 80s, this transgenderism stuff started being floated, and that's about the same time as lesbian and gay marriage was being floated and so forth. They knew at that time that none of that was going to fly because that was abnormal behavior at that time. But they knew if they just kept bringing that up over and over again, pretty soon the people would start thinking, well, we've heard enough. Maybe it's not abnormal. Maybe it's normal, until we get to a point where all of a sudden now we're talking about gay marriage and okay, now that's normal. Now we're talking about transgenderism, and pretty soon that'll become the new normal. So everything that we thought of maybe 30 to 50 years ago was the new abnormal is now the new normal. So all these things, they just like Greg said, they try this stuff and they plant the seed on, and then another 5 years they'll do it again. Another 5 years they'll do it again. Pretty soon it'll be mainstream. That's pretty much the history of way all these things have happened, the way I've been watching them throughout my lifetime.
Do you think it started with the movie Tootsie,
Yeah.
Bill?
I don't know.
You know, the transgender thing has its roots, and of course, where it all has, in academia in the 1980s. It was introduced in the 1980s, and at elite university, Ivy League school, of course, and you really can see the transition from the early 80s on into what it is today. It started on the college campuses, and now, as you say, it is mainstream. But these people are in it for the long game. They're in the long haul. You know, what was in the closet in the 50s became out of the closet in the 70s and 80s, became acceptable in the 90s, and today is celebrated, and tomorrow will be forced upon you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll never be happy. They'll never be satisfied. It'll never be enough. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yep.
They'll continue to use and abuse, and they'll continue to whine and pout like children, and they'll continue to be hostile and aggressive. There's no peace with these people.
No, and it isn't. You know, as that Bible verse says, beware if you bite and devour one another, you be consumed by one another. These groups and organizations fight themselves, whether it's the climate change, you know, the windmill folks with the animal rights, they're clashing because they're killing the birds, the transgenders and the gay, the homosexuals. You talk to any homosexual, and I have people in my family, this family, who are homosexual, they talk about transgenders. They hate the groups do not get along. You know, they put them all together in this, you know, LGBTQ plus, but I'll tell you what, they are anything but unified in a cohesive organization, because many of them in these groups hate the other. So you see them fighting against each other all the time. The gays don't like the trannies, and you talk to anyone that's gay and they'll tell you that.
Well, look at Vladimir Putin has banned LGBTQ activists as extremists. He's banned them because the agenda you're talking about, he doesn't want that to poison Russia. Now, I know that the whole left is going berserk the last week when the Russian Supreme Court came out there, but Putin, whether you like him or hate him or whatever, at least he's been able to identify them as their agenda is much, much bigger. Much, much bigger. Like we have here, like you discussed, if you misgender somebody, they want to make that a criminal offense or whatever. At least Putin is standing up for his own people and not letting them come in and poison their family environment or however you want to look at it.
Matt, he actually uses New World Order as well too. He knows about that, how the Marxism and communism is has taken over our country. So I agree. Yeah, he's definitely he's a strong leader. He stands up for his people. And like you said, you can hate him or not, but at least he's standing up for his own people. Unlike our government officials, they don't stand up for us at all.
Well, Joe Biden had, you saw Pride Month on the White House lawn. He had the trannies that were exposed, and there were kids at that event and whatnot. He's right out in the open. He doesn't give a shit.
No, he doesn't.
And it was just, and I gotta mention this report. This is mind blowing. Crazy. U.S. authorities encountered over 12,000 migrants at the southern border yesterday, the highest daily total ever recorded. Over 12,000 in a day. That's the highest they've ever had. Like I said, recorded. That's crazy.
And I think a lot of them were young Chinese males, weren't they?
Yeah.
There were a lot of them. Yes, I saw the videos.
Yes.
That was the biggest majority of them.
Hundreds of them, the Chinese males. I saw yesterday that how many are not being counted like that, even the illegals? How many are getting through that you're not going to know?
Probably just the same amount.
Yes. I
Hey,
would
Greg.
say about the same amount.
Yeah. Can't Governor Abbott do something on the southern border there within that, like he
put a buoys in the water. Now they're making them take the buoys out.
Somebody
Then
found
they
one of the
National
raise
Guard.
the wire up, and then
Can't
they
use the National Guard there?
Yeah, put the National Guard, but all the National Guard is doing.
for them.
The National Guard is processing. They're not down there with guns and saying, get out. I mean, that's that whole thing ridiculous. And the same thing with the Biden administration wants to send more, put more money on. What he wants to do is send more agents to process them. No, we're not talking about putting guards on the border. Look, if you're going to send the National Guard there with the rifles, you treat it as an invasion.
Yeah,
It's an invasion. You don't get to cross the border. That's not what the National Guard's there for. That's never what they've been there for. And they're never going to use them in that way. They should. And
I'm just
DeSantis
saying
is
he
promising,
could.
I'm
saying
going to
he
go
could.
into Mexico and I'll solve the
Yeah.
problems by military in Mexico if I have to. This is an invasion and it's a national security risk. We should treat it
I'm
as
just
that.
saying he could do it. I'm just saying he doesn't, but I'm just saying, couldn't he do that?
I mean, what? You shoot at them? Use guards to shoot at them and shoot tanks at them like they did in Waco? Yeah, maybe they should. Okay, you come into our place. Look at there are people coming across. We've got video of them with carrying AR-15s and AK-47s coming across our borders, armed, bringing their people. So
And
we ought
bringing
to put our
children, taking
military on the
children
border.
and bringing them across. Yeah, it's disgusting.
And there's never a real, legitimate, long-term solution for this border crisis.
That's right.
All it ever is mostly talk. I mean, here and there they sign some bills that, only does some good in the short term, but that's not enough, man.
It's never been the policies or the bills, Greg. It's all. I mean, Rory. It's always been the
They're to
execution of
blame
them.
for a lot of what's going on.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't make any difference. They can write all the bills. They have all the policies they want. It depends on whether they're going to execute them or not, and that's where they decide. Right now, we got enough laws on the books to stop all this. The Biden administration won't enforce them. That's what the real issue is.
Right.
Of course, they don't want to. This is a design. This is intentional. This is part of their objective.
Mexico and other countries, Central America, where's their immigration laws? They got to get through their countries to get to our country, right?
Yeah, Mexico actually has one of the most restrictive immigration laws there is.
Look, Mexico is facilitating it.
Isn't enforcing their laws, which are the most restrictive.
No, but I'm saying to be because
the cartels are in charge. So the cartels have suspended the immigration laws and allowing them to come on through because that's their.
No, we're talking about becoming a citizen. You guys are talking about coming. They don't accept just anybody. They have one of the most strict
in Mexico does. Yes, I know that, but they're not enforcing it, Brian, because the cartels are in charge of the government now, and the cartels aren't enforcing.
They're facilitating.
They're promoting it.
The cartels are sending them here for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying they're not taking them. They keeping them as citizens in Mexico. They're
who the hell wants to be a citizen of Mexico?
I wouldn't.
I mean, you don't go on easy street in Mexico.
I agree. I'm not saying. I'm just saying that's what they're doing. You guys are acting like I'm saying I don't want to be a citizen. No.
Look, Mexico is facilitating the whole process. Now
you guys brought Mexico. I'm just saying no nation in the world other than us allows illegal immigrants to come into their nation to be a citizen.
Well, how about that movie Sicario situation where the U.S. government deems the cartels as a national security threat? Ever watching those movies?
Yeah,
they should.
Yeah, guys, before we close out, I want to bring up this new report out today. The UN, the United Nations, unveils its playbook to censor online speech globally. A recent initiative by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization has ignited a debate over free speech and the regulation of online communication. Using the ominous term Internet of Trust, UNESCO plays a full spectrum deployment of techniques like algorithmic suppression to diminish speech online that the UN doesn't approve of. The Apache Times reports that the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization recently released a 59-page report outlining measures to regulate online communication and social media. The report aims to address what the agency terms as false information, conspiracy theories, and hate speech, and advocates for global policies to be adopted by governments, businesses, and civil societies to promote objectives like cultural diversity and gender equality, while simultaneously seeking to curb certain forms of online speech. This initiative, termed as creating an Internet of Trust, includes strategies like algorithm suppression, content warning, demonetization, and even content removal. Critics of the report have raised concern that these methods may be used to silence legitimate information and restrict political speech. Wow.
Yeah, that's dangerous. They would ban this show right here.
Yeah. So
and that's the UN, right?
we would be giving them all of the authority. It sounds like they would have this global, worldwide control. And in certain aspects, it would be out of the US's hands on how the internet's operated and all this information that we get.
Well, it's
The
just
UN
like the
wants to
World Health
control everything. That's why I say we need to get rid of the United Nations. We need to immediately get rid of the United Nations, get it off our property, sell that building in Manhattan to private enterprise, collect the taxes on them, and let the Swedes, let the Europeans, let them go over there. And, maybe we'll send a delegation over there and run up the bills and not pay them. But the idea that we're going to be subjected to one of the most anti-American, anti-Israel organizations the world has ever known, that these people come to our country on our soil and foul-mouth, bad-mouth this country. And they do it on our dime. It's the most egregious, ridiculous waste of taxpayer dollars. We should immediately end our participation in the United Nations. It's antithetical to American liberty. It's antithetical to the Second Amendment by a wide margin. They want to destroy America's right to have guns. It's antithetical to American sovereignty and the sovereignty of our citizens, because they would seek to prosecute our citizens for various international crimes, whether it comes regarding to speech or our religion or any of the rights that we have in this country. So it's time to get rid of the UN, to end the UN. But you know what? That's never going to happen, because these politicians don't have the guts to take that stand.
Well, Greg, how about the World Health Organization? If Biden signs that, the World Health Organization wants to be able to have full control over the next pandemic for every country in the world.
Yeah.
Look at, and you know what? 50 and 5. That's the goal of the United Nations. They want 50 countries in the next 5 years to adopt and have implemented a personal identification system. That means you'll have some kind of chip, maybe laser tattoo or whatever it is, a personal identification system that will not only identify you, but it will provide your a platform for you to buy and sell for all your purchases and for data dissemination and data exchange. So, this is extremely, extremely dangerous. It's where the world is moving. And anybody that doesn't believe Revelation 13:18 ought to just read up the UN 50 and 5.
Amen. My congressman actually voted for it, the guy I ran against. He's a Republican.
Hey, and by the way, Matthew, the WHO, the WHO, is part of the UN. In 1976, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a New York liberal, resigned as ambassador to the United Nations. And when they asked him why, he said it was a squalid circus. And I wonder how long it'll take us to leave that organization. That was in 1976. It's still a squalid circus, and we're still in it.
It is. And to get back to Rory's initial thing about the UN and censorship, what they're trying to do it piecemeal. The European Union this past August passed the Digital Security Act, which is a hate legislation bill. And the Irish government were the first to use this last week when they're trying to pass their so-called anti-hate legislation. So I think they're going about it like piecemeal. If the EU can really force this, and it forces Twitter and everybody else like X to remove anything they deem as hate speech, they'll start it there, and then it will spread. I think the UN trying to shut everything down at once, they know they'll have a big problem with that. So they'll probably try to do it piecemeal, possibly in the European Union first.
Yep.
The UN's going to be dangerous.
Greg, do you know anything about this new report? Sweden is on the brink of joining NATO. You heard about that, right?
Yeah, well, there's a number of countries also that are trying to get into the NATO.
Listen to this. On the brink of joining NATO, Sweden has signed a defense cooperation agreement with Washington that will allow the United States access to all of the military base across the Scandinavian countries, saying the deal would bolster regional security. Thoughts?
Well, look, I'm against the. I personally believe that there should be a contraction of NATO, not an expansion. Although, we have Norway, we have Finland. Sweden has been sitting on the fence because they've kind of wanted to remain neutral. Doesn't surprise me now with the Russian aggression. But part of the reason why we're in this war is because we would not basically back channel Russia the promise that Ukraine which should never be a member of NATO, would ever become a member of NATO. And all we had to do was make sure that Putin understood that. But instead, we danced around it and we allowed it to be a possibility and even promoted it. So we have this invasion that's costing us hundreds of billions of dollars. No, I don't believe we ought to expand NATO anymore. I do believe that we ought to fast track expelling Turkey from NATO.
Yep.
I mean, Turkey has violated Article 2 of NATO for many years. They threatened to attack a fellow NATO country in Greece. They occupy islands. They're constantly at odds with the other NATO countries. This is a Muslim-controlled nation, and we ought to move to expel Turkey from NATO. They're not our friends, and really, they're much more of a liability to NATO than they'll ever be a friend.
Yep, that's correct.
Matt.
Well, the only thing about there's actually, I think there's 3 or 4 countries that want to join NATO now. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be in NATO? Because the United States will pick up your bill for munitions, aircraft, ships, everything. It's a win-win. But right now, I think NATO's crumbling. I don't think they have that cohesiveness. I don't like they used to. I don't
Especially with all the Jewish and Hamas stuff going on, for sure.
Yeah, I've been talking about it for a while that NATO is really behind on the times, and they're lacking in many different departments, and they're not as advanced and strong as they once were.
It served a purpose post-World War II.
Times are changing. Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, but it served a purpose post-World War II, but I see it right now as it's a very different world right now. And it's not like we need a NATO. I mean, look what we did to Kuwait. Kuwait's not a member of NATO, but when they were invaded, what did we do? We went there and we supported and we protected it. Why? Because it fit the narrative. It was in our national security interests that controlling the oil, and with Iraq controlling the oil, massive amounts of oil. It was an economic security issue. So it was in our best interest too. We don't need NATO to lend our help. I mean, look at Ukraine. Ukraine's not a NATO country, but we're giving them $100+ billion to fight against the Russians. We look at Taiwan. Taiwan's not a NATO country, but if China invades, we've got presidential candidates that are saying that we'll commit troops to support them. I don't think that NATO, when you look at the amount of money that we spend there, the hundreds of billions of dollars that American taxpayers to secure them, okay, it's like entitlements as safety nets. All they do is make you weaker. If the European nations had to, fight that battle on their own and ensure that their militaries were strong enough, then they would be strong enough. But they have the back of the American taxpayer so that they don't do it themselves. And were it not for Donald Trump, we would be even further behind the disproportionate amount of money that we spend for protecting these people. What the hell do they do for us? What does French people do for us? What did Angela Merkel do for us? But attack us and insult us and tell us that we're arrogant and that we ought to be silent. Yeah, be silent. Maybe we ought to not write our blank checks for you anymore either. Right. So, I mean, it's time to really visit what NATO is. And you know what? Donald Trump was right to do that when he addressed that. Oh, the whole world, he's crazy. This man's going to break up NATO. But he was absolutely right. We're wasting our money. And not only that, we are making Europe weaker because of it.
Yeah, we've been used and abused for far too long. We've been the piggy bank. We've paid way more than any other country. Bill.
In 1949, NATO was founded, I think, by 12 countries, and it was to stop the spread of communism into Western Europe. That mission is long gone.
That's right.
And the money we pissed away on is long gone as well.
That's why I say it had its point.
1990 things should have changed.
It's the Nick Wallenda, the guy who walks across the tight wire without a safety net. I mean, his whole shtick is he does it without a safety net. He could fall 1,000 feet and plummet to his death. But the reason what he does to do that is he does a lot of strength training, because he always says, look, as long as I'm strong enough, if the winds blow, things get tough, I can always hold on. So the whole thing is, without a safety net, what does Nick Wallenda do? He works out in the gym 3-4 times a week, make sure he's strong physically. It's safety nets, social safety nets are the very same way. As long as you don't have a social safety net, what are you going to do? You're going to shore up your own reserves. You're going to strengthen your own accounts and your own financial status. We ought to look at it the exact same way that Nick Wallenda does. That's why he can walk across a tight wire that's strung across Niagara Falls without a safety net, because he's strong. But we're not strengthening people. We're not strengthening our own people. We're not strengthening the people in Europe by giving them them all the money and providing all the military equipment and personnel, all the bases that we have in Europe. They don't have to do it on their own. They got the giant safety net of the United States of America, and that's why they're pathetically weak.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Before we close out, I do want to mention this. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, warned Congress that U.S. troops could be deployed if Ukraine aid is not sent. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin warned Congress on Tuesday during a private briefing that if they do not pass more aid to Ukraine, it would very likely lead to U.S. troops fighting a war in Europe. Aren't they already fighting over there?
Yeah, they gave $185 million again today. There's probably a lot of special operations troops from the United States, from Britain, from Australia that are actively on the ground. But I actually think this is still it's going to be closing down at some point, Roy, because right now the Ukrainian military are putting 15, 16-year-old kids, guys in their 50s. They're putting them on the front lines because they have over 500,000 dead. So I think we're looking at end game stuff here. Okay. We've lost a lot of money. You know, a lot of that money is like a boomerang. $200 billion of a lot of it probably floated back to the swamp in D.C.
For sure, dude.
The military-industrial complex. This has to wind down. Okay, this war or whatever you want to call it is over.
You know, MJ, I'm less bothered by the idea, the notion, and whether or not it is that the money gets floated back to politicians and to the military. Because here's what's really happening: the money is going to people in Ukraine, oligarchs, people with yachts, and people with huge bank accounts in other countries. It's just like Afghanistan. We paid millions, billions, $1 trillion. How many trillion in Afghanistan? And we were funding their military 3 times the amount of peace personnel. So for every, they had one person in the military that we're funding 3 of them, but they only had 1 in representation. So triple. We're giving them triple the money. So there was no accounting, and we're doing the exact same thing in Ukraine. I mean, we're giving money for their military, for their businesses, for their retirement funds, and many of them we don't even know if they exist. So maybe we're propping up 100,000 soldiers, but only 50,000 soldiers are taking that money. Where's the rest of the money going? Well, I think we could all use our imagination. I would rather say, you know what, the money's coming back into the United States. I could stomach that. I cannot stomach the idea that the United States taxpayer is paying for people that don't exist in Ukraine and Afghanistan, for businesses, for retirement funds, and for oligarchs that are only stealing our money. I cannot stomach.
Yeah, we're funding both sides of this Hamas war, Hamas and Israel. It's ridiculous. We do it all the time. Been doing it for decades.
Bill, you have some thoughts.
Is it true that Zelensky just purchased a $75 million yacht?
Yeah, I heard that.
There you go.
Wow.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Wow. Not surprising at all.
No, I just hope all this gender identity training that we've been teaching our soldiers really pays off over in Ukraine for them.
No, we're fighting climate change. That's our biggest national security threat. Climate change.
Right.
Yeah, I forgot. It's not the one. It's not who has a penis or a vagina. It's climate change.
True. Matthew, anything before we close out? Anything we missed out on?
No, I think we covered it all today. I just wanted to say one thing that we discussed a little earlier, Greg, everybody, about guns and whatnot. The largest mass shooting in a college was at a place called Virginia Tech. It was done with a handgun. He killed 32 of his fellow students. So when they say they want to ban ARs or AKs, no, they want to go after everything. You know, you can use a knife, you can use a handgun, and you could be committing mass murders. Yep. They want to knock out everything, not just the ARs.
Just one at a time, Matthew. Just one at a time.
Matthew J., tell everybody where they can find you.
I'm on X Monday through Friday between 4 and 6. Of course, I'm here at NextGenUSA.com, Centralist.tv, and Rumble.
Excellent. Bill, tell everybody where they can find you.
Hey, I'm on the Next Gen, although I'm taking the week off because I got this terrible sinus infection. So thanks for putting up with me, guys, and sorry for my outburst. But anyway, good luck to you all and have a great week.
God bless you, Bill. Greg, tell everybody where they can find you.
They could go to my website, of course, votemerk.com. Find me here on the Next Gen USA at least 2 times a week.
Perfect. Brian, tell everybody where they can find you.
You guys can find me here on Next Gen Live, Centralist TV, YouTube, Rumble, eventually Instagram, Fascist Book, I'm just grateful to be here. Grateful to be with all you guys. I love good debating, and you guys are on it pretty much most of the time. So it's always kind of hard to kind of give a different view because we all have a lot of the similar views, and but we bring a lot of fun and excitement to this show, and it's great. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for everybody that tunes in and watches us. I get a lot of messages. Hey, when are you going to be on with Rory and the guys again? So a lot of people love this, and let's just keep fighting, keep presenting the facts and the truth, and stand tall together, man. We got to save it. This spiritual war of good versus evil. We got to all just keep praying, keep letting God use us and guide us, and do His will.
Amen. Amen. Well said, everybody. I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. Another episode of the Next Gen Live in the books. We will see you all very soon. Until next time, I'm Rory Sauter. God bless. Much love. Cheers, everybody. Good night.
Yeah.